Let's see.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is our second session of our first Wine Media Virtual Summit. My name is Sarah Wollner, and I work for Zephyr Conferences, who puts on the Wine Media Conference. A little bit about Zephyr: there are 4 of us, and we run 5 conferences around the food, wine, and beer industry. The WMC started in 2008 as the Wine Bloggers Conference, but we've since expanded and have sessions for writers, bloggers, influencers, and wine industry members who want to connect with media. One thing that makes this conference unique is that we travel to new locations each year. Last year, we were exploring and tasting wines in Australia, but this year we were supposed to be in Eugene, Oregon, but that was postponed to August 2021. Instead, we are here virtually with you all, and I hope to see you all, meet you in person, and cheers in person with you next year. This was actually my first job out of college, and I feel so lucky to put on events and interact with the wine community. I'm fairly new to the wine world, but I am learning a lot, and I love every second of it. I do all the marketing for the Wine Media Conference, so if you tweet, post, or tag the WMC, I'm the one reading those, so please feel free to say hi. I see some of you have found the chat section on the right-hand side. I think it's on the right for everybody. Feel free to use that during the session. If you have questions for any of our panelists, please put them in the Ask a Question section in the bottom of your screen. That way I can keep track of all of those and then send them to Fred so he can ask all of our panelists. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We have an excellent session for you today, and it is my pleasure to introduce Fred Swan.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. It's wonderful to have you with us. I wish that I could see all your faces, but I can certainly see your messages in the chat screen, and I'll see the questions later. My name is Fred Swan. I'm a professional wine writer, also wine educator, instructor. I also run an annual conference for wine writers myself called Wine Writers Educational Tours. It's a small, super educational 4-day deep dive into a different region every time. I write for a variety of publications. I also have my own website, which is fredswan.wine. And these days, like so many of us, I've taken my wine education virtual, and I'm doing a lot of Zoom tastings on my own and with winemakers doing basic education stuff, but also deep tastings and information on particular regions and particular wineries as well. I'll look forward to, again, getting your questions later, but now I want to go ahead and start introducing our panelists. So I'm just going to go in order of the way I see people on screen. So I'd like to start off with Craig Camp from Troon Vineyards.
Hi, everyone. I'm Craig Camp. I'm the general manager at Troon Vineyard. We're in Southern Oregon, the Applegate Valley. So that's extreme southwestern Oregon in the Siskiyou Mountains, about 60 miles from the ocean. We're a very remote area, which will factor in a lot to this conversation as it goes through the day. But and now over 35 years in fine wines. I've known Joy for most of that time, but really happy to be here today.
Wonderful. And next, I'd like to go to Leah Derton.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Leah Derton. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing at William Chris Vineyards in High, Texas. It's a little town that likely none of you have heard of. It's about an hour west of Austin, though, which you have heard of, and about an hour northwest of San Antonio. So we're in the hill country of Texas, and we are the largest producer of 100% Texas wines here in the state. Happy to be with you guys.
Thank you, Leah. Joy.
Good morning, everybody, and afternoon on the East Coast. I am so thrilled to be with you. Iron Horse is my family's winery. We're in the midst of harvesting for sparkling wine, and it'll be great to be chatting with you today.
Thank you, Joy. And a little hard hearing you. Maybe you can move a little closer to the microphone. And then no doubt due to some technical issue, Meaghan Frank from Dr. Constantine seems to have dropped off momentarily. So we hope that she can rejoin us, but I'll just do a quick introduction for her in her absence. So Meaghan Frank is general manager of Dr. Constantine Frank Winery, which is up in the Finger Lakes. You're back.
I'm so sorry. I have no idea what happened.
No worries. So I was just introducing you, but now that you're back, you can do that yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Fred. Hi, everyone. My name is Meaghan Frank. I manage my family's winery, Dr. Constantine Frank Winery, in the Finger Lakes region of New York. So I'm the fourth generation of my family to work here, and we produce a lot of aromatic whites and sparkling wines. So it's a great honor to be with you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we have so much to talk about and so much to share today. I'm not going to spend much time, if any, with my own comments or preambles. I'm just going to dive right into things. So again, we'll go in the same order. And what I'd like to know now, or what I'd like everybody to share with the audience, is the unique situations that you've each had in your individual states. We've got sort of 4 quadrants of the country covered here, and each area has had its somewhat unique experience with COVID. So, Craig, can you sort of tell us what things were like in the early days of COVID there in Southern Oregon, and what things happened early on, what the closures were like and whatnot in the Applegate Valley?
Well, at the end of February, I was on the Slow Wine Tour doing gigantic tastings in Denver, Seattle, San Francisco, and I got back a week later and we closed down. They closed down everything in early March here. So for 2 months, we were totally closed to customers except for pickups and retail sales. And if you knew where the winery is and look on the map, you would see that this is not exactly a busy highway we're on. So there was not a lot of traffic here. Of course, the farming went on as usual, which was a very, very strange feeling because we're working, we're doing all the vineyard work. Everything looks like it is, but there's no people here. With our tasting room staff, we kept everyone on. We didn't let anybody lay off anybody, but we basically converted them into telemarketing and direct mail and email and everything we could think of. And it was actually a very rewarding experience, the way our club and our mailing list customers stood up and supported us during that period. Like most states, we went through various phases. So we went through the phase 1, which closed us down altogether. Now we're in phase 2, which means we can have outside tastings again. Phase 3 is when it's cured. So for the immediate period, we're going to stay in this quasi operational situation that it's very confusing, but I think everybody is in either better or worse conditions than we are. So,
Craig, on which date were you able to reopen finally?
May, first week of May.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's go on to Leah then. Can you tell us about your experience there in Texas?
Sure. So we actually voluntarily closed down our tasting room before it was mandated. In Texas, they basically started kind of rolling down the non-essential businesses, and bars and the like were kind of the first to go. So we were maybe a week before that happened. And then we were allowed to reopen in, I believe it was mid-May. So right after Mother's Day, I think, is when we reopened our tasting room. We opened first to club members, wine club members, and then to the general population. And then, as you guys know, in Texas, we had to kind of roll back some of that reopening activity. And we got lumped in with bars again. And bars were behaving badly in Texas. There was a lot of photos on the news of people super tight in a bar. We have 23 acres here, so that was a tough pill for us to swallow. But that was June 25th that we closed down a second time. And then we reopened actually just last week. We were able to work really closely with the state government to get approval to open for educational experiences and food-based experiences. We're doing the majority of our activity outdoors, but we do have our tasting room open again as of last week.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Joy, can you tell us about your experience there in Sonoma County?
Yes, well, we were closed for a week, and we have the advantage that our tasting area is outdoors anyway. And I've always been envious of beautiful marble palaces that are tasting rooms in Sonoma County around me. But in this case, 2 barrels with a plank of wood over it turned out to be the best. In the beginning, we had to serve food, which was challenging for us. But we got our friends, the Oyster Girls, to provide oysters, and Big Bottom Market to provide these gorgeous food baskets, and we just charged for them in the tasting fee. That sense has gone away, and we are operating outdoors as normal, but at 50% capacity.
Great. Thank you so much, Joy. Okay, let us move on to Meaghan then to hear about what's up in upstate New York.
Sure, absolutely. Well, as everyone I think knows, New York was hit pretty early on. So we actually closed, much like Leah was discussing, we closed about a week before the mandates came down, and we were deemed an essential business because we're an agricultural business. So that was really positive. So we closed our tasting room in March, maybe the second week of March, I believe. And we just concentrated on e-commerce, shipping out a lot of wine. We did all these staff stories and specials, curbside pickup. We actually had some rules expanded, so we were able to do local deliveries in the area, which is something we weren't able to do in the past. And we just continued on in the vineyard and the cellar, and tried to keep morale up. So we were able to open to the public, I believe it was June 13th. That was part of phase 3. So in upstate New York, we're in phase 4 now, which is great. So indoor dining is allowed at minimum capacity or less capacity. But yeah, so our business has certainly changed, and I'm excited to tell you all about the things that we've implemented.
Nice. And how many wineries about are in the area where you are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's about 150 wineries in the Finger Lakes.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's actually stick with you, Meaghan, if we can. We're going to
Sure.
take questions a little bit. You were just telling us a little bit about what you're able to do now, and I know you're in phase 4, which is great. I think you're the only one for that right now. How are the experiences you're doing now? How do those differ, the consumer experiences? How does that differ? What is it that you used to do that you can't do right now?
Yes, that's a great question. So we completely changed what we're offering for our tasting experiences. We produce over 40 different wines. So it used to be an experience where the guest was behind the bar, they got to pick whatever they wanted. And it was that kind of intimate service, which we figured is not going to be possible. You're not keeping 6 feet of distance. It's not safe for the staff or the customer. So what we created is a progressive tasting experience. So what we were hearing from Cornell, the experiment station, did a lot of webinars about safety and things we needed to change. And the things that they recommended is a one-way flow through the facility and also outdoor tasting stations. So we really tried to implement especially those two. So essentially we have a greeter, and then guests pass through 5 different tasting stations that have different themes. So the first one's sparkling, the next one is history. We then go through vineyards, winemaking, and then a really special line of wines that pays tribute to the women of my family who have helped build the business. So all of that is a really great educational experience, and it's just a one-way flow. We then have a contactless pickup window with plexiglass, and then guests pick up their wine in the parking lot. So the system has totally changed. Our gift shop is closed. We stopped our food and wine experiences for the year, which it would have been our 5th year of providing those, but we'll wait till next year. And we expanded our lawn space to have more picnic tables, more outdoor seating so that guests could enjoy on the property. So we do have to provide some kind of food with the experience. That's a pretty new executive order from our governor. And so what we've been doing is trail mix packs. So really fun, nut-free trail mix that we create ourselves and from a bulk food store nearby. And that suffices for food, at least in New York. So that's our experience. And I think, honestly, we might keep it moving forward because the feedback has been really positive.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Craig, let's go to you. What is it that you used to do that you can't do now, and how has that affected your business?
Well, always a large part for us was people would just come in and come up to the bar and taste, and then often buy bottles of wine and go out in a large area. And that we can't do at all anymore. So bar service is totally not allowed at this point. So we've converted everything to outside service. And again, we're fortunate, we've got a very large area. So having a large distancing between tables has been very easy for us. It's an incredible amount of work for the staff. That's, I think, one of the bigger differences of this situation is the masking, the disinfecting the tables, the washrooms, the constant cleaning has just added a lot more work to what they have to do. So Meaghan mentioned one way we have to do that as they come in. Masks are required for entry. And then once they've established a table, only one person works with them the entire time. So it's not like we used to be able to do where we would tag team everyone, especially outdoor in the big area. So one person stays with them the entire time. The interesting part is I think that's something we would want to keep because it really helps develop a better relationship with the customer to have one person with them the whole time. As far as food service, we're not required to do it. We had always offered local charcuterie plates, which we stopped, but we have replaced that. We went to our local cheesemakers and so forth, and they were able to make individual portions for us. So people are actually able to kind of construct a small picnic basket of their own. And that way we don't have to handle the food, which opens a whole range of other issues that we don't want to get into. So it's been logistically hard, but at the same time, I think it's taught us a lot of lessons about ways to better connect and improve our guest experience.
Great. Thank you so much, Craig. And to one of your points, let me just interject a personal suggestion, which is, as you mentioned, and I know this is true for pretty much all the wineries, the staff, the tasting room staff that are leading things do have a whole lot more work and responsibility than they used to. So tipping at wineries isn't always a thing. In some places it's common, in others not so much. But I think if you go out to a winery these days, it would be great to seriously consider tipping the staff because they're really doing an amazing job and working hard for everyone's safety and to optimize the experience for everybody. Okay, let's move on to Leah. Same question to you.
Sure,
in other words, what has changed in terms of what you can offer? What are you not doing now that you used to do before?
So the biggest one for us has been our virtual tastings program. And someone in the comments mentioned it. That was something that we rolled out like 3 days after we closed the tasting room. It was something that had been on our roadmap for 2020 and something that we've been kind of kicking around for a while, but something that we accelerated and brought to the front of the line overnight in order to execute. And I think it was a good thing because we kind of stopped overthinking it and just said, let's start trying and we can make adjustments along the way. And we have. That program has really saved our hide. We have really relied on that. We have a great loyal following of customers. Here at William Chris Vineyards, we're very lucky to have a dedicated club and a lot of loyal kind of soldiers out there that were, eager to support us. And it's really become a great little community. We do these every Saturday afternoon at 4. And the way that we've monetized it is we do a different pack of wines for each tasting. Some of those wines have repeated, but it's a different combination every single weekend. So that has been a huge change for us, and it's a permanent part of our business model now. We probably will go to maybe once a month long term, but it's something that we'll definitely keep around. Kind of like Craig mentioned, we were really quick to reallocate our staff. So we took our tasting room staff and put them to work in the vineyard for those of them that were up for it. So we had people working in the vineyard. We had people working on the phones. We had people doing kind of special care packs for our club members, things to just stay in touch with them and stay engaged with them in a time when everyone was really isolated. And we've fortunately been able to keep everybody on staff, which was great because once things go to reopening, that happens really quickly. So you need the staff in place to be able to support that. Other things that we've done, we have expanded our food program. So we've had a full service kitchen on property for a while now, but we have started doing picnic packs. So you can order a picnic and come and enjoy it on our lawn, which is nice because it gives people the chance to select their own space, distance themselves as much as they want to. And those are really nice, really gourmet. We've partnered with a couple of local places to round that pack out. And that has been a good offering for us to have in the times when we're closed, since it's outdoors and it's not a tasting. Those are the big ones for us here in Texas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And then Joy, I know you mentioned that you're doing tastings outside now. Sort of board on a barrel. What are the, if any, what experiences did you offer to customers before that you can't do now?
We are operating exactly the same way as we always have. We offer, one tasting flight instead of 3, but we're still offering that gorgeous view looking all the way across the vineyard to Mount St. Helena. And you take your own glass and you get more time. And we're finding that is to everyone's advantage.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And just to clarify, Joyce said take your own glass. She doesn't mean people are bringing glasses from home. What she means is that they have a dishwasher there where all the glasses are clean and thoroughly sanitized. You walk in, you grab a glass out of the dishwasher so nobody else is touching your glass. You're not touching anybody else's. And then that glass lives with you until you leave the winery. Awesome. Thank you so much. So one of the questions came in about virtual tastings, whether it's Zoom or what have you. And I know that most of you are doing those on a semi-regular basis now. Just a quick answer on this. Craig, is Zoom tasting, virtual tastings, something that you guys were doing at all before, and you just, or it's something you've just started now?
Well, I think it's one of those things that was on our to-do list that it forced to the top of things. So we went through a little steep learning curve. We had one of our events on Zoom was bombed by some very vicious people. So that was a learning experience that upped our knowledge of security, all these things we had to learn that we didn't really expect. But now I think we're more or less at the point where we've dialed in and we've moved on even from doing tastings to doing cooking shows, working with local chefs that do live online cooking classes and things like that. These have been very successful. We pair them with our ones. And for instance, later today, we're doing a Rhone Rangers event with for Syrah producers from across the country. So I think what's exciting is that we've all gotten a lot better at it. And now this is a tool that we'll continue to use because it makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Meaghan, how about for you?
We haven't really done our own virtual tastings. I've been doing a lot of tastings with retailers and SOMs, and I think that's been really great. So kind of partnering with different people, especially those that are far away. You know, I have now connections in like this restaurant in Arizona I would have never had a connection with. And as this becomes normalized, you know, I'm excited that these things will continue to help our partners. So we haven't done any virtual events, but we have been connecting with our customers through, we call them staff stories. So it's, they were like every 2 or 3 days when we were shut down, but we featured a different staff member each time, and it was a photo of them and their favorite at-home activity with their favorite recipe, and then a featured wine to go along with that, and you got 20% off that wine for just that amount of time. So it was a great way to feel connected. So anyway, I hope the virtual tastings continue for us with our partners.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leah, you've talked a little bit about this already, but was this the Zoom thing, was that a brand new thing for you? That it's obviously important now, but was it brand new for you?
Yeah, and we're actually doing ours on Facebook Live. So ours are more open to the public. We have people join each week that maybe didn't buy the pack for that week, but are drinking William Chris wine that's in their cellar. So ours are Facebook Live, and then we also maybe halfway through the time frame started offering like private closed circuit Zoom tastings as well. And they are brand new for us. All of it's brand new. Like I said, it was something that we wanted to do and had talked about, but nothing like a global pandemic to light the match and get things going, and you know, kind of remove that fear of failure, which was good for us. And you know, we've definitely had some hurdles and some learnings along the way that have just made the programming get tighter and the kind of technical aspects get better. We've invested in, you know, equipment. We have microphones and lighting, and we didn't have any of that at the beginning. So it's all brand new to us, and like I mentioned, for us, it is going to stick around. We've found that a lot of our club members, that obviously Texas is a huge state. We have club members up in Dallas and in Houston. We have out-of-state club members. They've really enjoyed the tastings because it's a way for them to stay engaged with the brand and the founders, even though they're not able to come to High as often as folks that are in Austin or San Antonio. So for us, they'll stick around probably in a more infrequent way, but we will definitely continue to offer them.
Wonderful, thank you. And Joy, are you doing virtual tastings as well now? And is that something you've done before?
Yes and yes. We are doing Facebook Live every Friday at 3 p.m. California time, Green Valley time. And that has been great. And it's particularly during harvest because it's giving us an opportunity to update on everything that's going on in the winery and in the vineyard. And we even held our opening ceremony, our blessing of the grapes. We did that on Facebook Live, and that was exciting.
Wonderful, thank you. Moving into a slightly different area of question now, I'll give just a little preamble. So one, following up on what everybody was just saying real quick, what I've heard from pretty much every winery that I've talked to is that they have been driven by the situation to engage directly with their consumer customers more than they ever have in the past, and they all seem to be welcoming that change, benefiting from that change, and are looking forward to continuing to do that. There was a little bit of a impetus to connect more directly about 10, 12 years ago with the recession that started in late 2008, when a lot of distributors and restaurants stopped being able to take as much inventory and sell as much wine as they did. Many wineries who were basically selling to trade only and didn't have any real connection with consumers started to change that. I think it's grown generally since then, but certainly this has been a huge boost for direct-to-consumer in various ways. Though obviously wineries, especially large wineries, continue to support the channel as possible and as that makes sense. Craig, what kind of impact, we don't need details here, but what kind of impact has this all had on sort of your cost structure at the winery, your revenues? I know there's a balance of, perhaps making X amount of money from the trade and maybe less at a top line level from consumers, but having greater margin because there are fewer middlemen, et cetera, et cetera. In any case, what has this done to your cost structure, and how is that working out from a business standpoint so far?
Well, I think like all the wineries here today, Wineries aside, we're always heavily focused on direct to consumer. Anyway, it's very difficult for small wineries to really aggressively compete with major distributors as an important part of their portfolio. So what we really had to do was just build on what we were already doing. Yes, I mean there's certain costs did go up, but not in the way you would think. There's this kind of, I think, illusion that direct consumer sales are so much more profitable than sales to wholesalers. But what people forget is that the cost of doing those direct to consumer sales is extremely high. You've got your tasting room costs, you've got your staff, you've got shipping, which seems to be as something that's going to change to where if you're ordering any kind of substantial quantity, you're going to get free shipping, and we think that's going to stay. So the shipping is probably going to be one of the more substantial financial hits that we're going to take. But this is the way to a market for a small winery, so we just have to accept that and move forward with that reality.
Meaghan, let's go to you. What's your situation on this in terms of costs and effect on revenue and margin, et cetera?
Yeah. For us, I agree totally 100% with Craig. There is this illusion that D2C is the way to go and it's so much more profitable, but it's extremely costly. And we've been offering since the pandemic began free shipping on 6 bottles or more. And that's been really successful. And I don't really know how we're going to take that away because people become accustomed. And I know many wineries followed that path. But we've been pretty aggressive on our e-commerce, building up our mailing list, really trying to focus on building that e-commerce. And that's helped us tremendously with just having customer information. But in terms of wholesale, we are distributed in 40 different states across the U.S., a few international markets, but that's been actually quite positive. And we've had to be very careful with our pricing because I think we may talk about this a little later, but it seems like the market is skewing towards more value wines, at least for bigger purchases. So upon release, we've had to be really careful about our pricing and change a few of those structures actually for our value line Salmon Run, which makes up about half of our production. So there are certain costs with that, with supporting the distributor, with DAs and things that we can support them without really doing work with or events with them. We can support them through pricing. So that has certainly been a cost, but it's been important for us to continue to grow. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Joy, same question for you.
Well, we are offering $1 shipping on 6 bottles. And I see that sticking. That's just not going to go away. And we are finding this to be extremely profitable for us. We were worried that the shipping cost was going to sink us, but in fact, it's inspired that much more business. And people are therefore buying 6 bottles plus. And so it's been a benefit. So that's gonna stick. There are a lot of things that I think are going to stick post-COVID. Shipping, I see a lot of comments about social engagement on the chat. That's gonna stick. we are definitely going to continue to engage directly, personally with our customers. And I've now taken that on. So when you when you post on our Facebook or Instagram and it says Iron Horse is answering, it's
Nice. Thank you so much. And then, Leah, let's go to you. How has it affected your costs, your revenues, bottom line, et cetera?
Yeah, so one thing that I reflect on a lot is at the very beginning of this, I did the numbers in my head of what we typically generate revenue-wise at a release party. Our release parties are pretty big here, and they make up like a good amount of revenue on the months that we have them, and I was really panicking about that. But the virtual tastings kind of really quickly proved to be able to recoup that revenue. And again, like everyone's talking about, it is direct to consumer. So the margins are great. The costs for us have definitely been in shipping primarily. And especially in the summer months, it's even more expensive for us to ship from Texas because we're doing ice packs and foam installation but it's worth it. I mean, the payoff of what we're doing in our web business now makes up for that. Above makes up for that. And that's something that I hope is going to stick as a consumer behavior. I think that for our fans to be able to create that bridge in their mind of, it's free shipping or $1 shipping on 6 bottles or more from a winery that I love. And, I can't always find their wine at the grocery store, but I know I love it. And I know I believe in their story. And I have met the founders and I've been to the property where they grow grapes. Like that connection and the ease of getting the wine through the web sale now is, I think, something that I hope it's something that's going to stick, and something that we're excited to have, seen catch as much traction as it has during this time.
Great, thank you so much. So this obviously is an event for wine writers and media people primarily. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about that. Craig, how, if at all, has what you do with writers and other media changed during this? I know you've been super active for a long, long time in that regard anyway. Maybe it hasn't changed so much, but if it has changed, how has that changed? And what would you like to see the media do perhaps more of, or something they are doing or not doing that you'd like to see more of?
Well, I don't think I've actually changed anything as far as my general communication with media and seeking out media and sending samples and so forth. Of course, the big gap for us now is that media can't visit us, and we'd had a lot of plans for media visits this summer. And Fred, as you know, that there's nothing like seeing the Applegate Valley to understand it. One of the prettiest places in the United States. So that has remained consistent for me, except the ability for them to visit and really see the depth of the project that we've created here. As far as what they do, I mean, what I've always been involved with this conference. I've only missed the one in Australia. There was a little thing called Harvest going on at that time, so I couldn't attend. But the people that attend this conference are the ones that get the story out about the small wineries. And that is so critical to what we do. And the ability to present what we do in a non-cynical, excited, passionate way has made a real difference for small wineries in the United States. So we just want to keep that connection.
Wonderful, thank you. Meaghan, how about for yourself?
Yes, so much like Craig, a lot of plans have changed, obviously, for many visitors that were meant to come. We are still receiving VIPs and writers because we are open to the public. We've just had to rethink what we do with them. And it always has to be a private experience. We're keeping it outside, maybe spending a little less time. Maybe before it would be like a full day. Now it's, a few hours. And then, of course, with with other partners, distributors and such, we would do all incentive trips and things like that. That's just not possible this year. So just trying to, keep in contact. And I think to Craig's point, we haven't changed that much either. And I almost think that these connections of just checking in, with people in the industry, whether they be a writer or some, and just asking about their family and saying, I'm thinking of you. It means so much, just from a human personal connection, that it's important to keep those relationships strong. So that's what we've tried to continue to do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Joy, how about for you? How has the relationship with media changed, if at all? And what can we as writers do for you if not to?
Well, first I want to say thank you to everybody who's on this call, because this is a fantastic opportunity. And I do have two asks. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm always going to ask. One is, people have been concerned that sparkling wine is just not the way during COVID or all the other challenges that we're facing. And we're simply not seeing that. And I have now come to the conclusion, you know what comfort food is? Well, bubbles turn out to be comfort wine. So that's my first point that I want to make, in a very happy way. The second point is that amazingly, we have tried to launch a new product this month, and that has been a challenge. And it's called Tin Pony. I'm going like this because it comes in a can, amazingly. And it's made for our times because it's a single serving size, 250 milliliter can of estate vintage Chardonnay. So without having the help of the normal channels, I really am going to rely on the wonderful wine writers to please help us get the word out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm sure that you will get that response. Leah, how about for you? You touched on this a little bit already, but can you expand on sort of the relationship with writers?
Sure. I definitely think, I was already incredibly appreciative of press coverage pre-COVID, but, especially during the lockdown times, like to have that touch point with the consumer has been huge for us during this time. One way that we've leveraged the influencer audience that I would encourage other wineries to explore is inviting them to our virtual tastings. Every single week we have new influencers that join our tastings. We help get them the wine, and they, they'll post Instagram stories of the unboxing and show kind of the wines that they get, the thank you card that's in there from the winery. They'll post during the experience, which is on Saturdays, and that's been great for just getting new people exposed to our brand in a time where we can't have people out to the winery to have that experience. So that's been great for us. In general, I would just look to wine media and wine writers to just continue pivoting with us, continue evolving with us and covering the new things that wineries are doing to try and engage with their customers in this time. Because I saw someone ask this question, is there going back to normal? And I don't think that there's ever going back to what things were like before, because I think there are going to be new and positive things that stick. And I think those will be part of our new normal. And so as wine writers, as much as they can help us draw attention to those new ways to engage with small local wineries, we're so appreciative of that, because, the consumer will have to become aware of those new things. So it's all new.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and I think that applies to writers as well. We are, many of us, doing things somewhat differently than we did before.
Right.
We're not attending, obviously, big trade tastings, and there's not a whole lot of, wine lunches going on and things like that. So things have changed for us as well. And there are a lot of different ways that a person can be influenced to change. Some of them positive, some of them negative. Clearly, COVID is overwhelmingly negative overall, but it seems that many wineries and people in other industries are taking it as an opportunity to hone and tweak their business models, and are going to come out of this stronger than they were before, and with more control over their own destiny, perhaps to the extent that anybody can actually control that. One of the questions that came in related to virtual tastings in particular, and this is a great question, is how are you as a winery rising above the noise? How are you getting your word out on that? I mean, we as an industry went from virtual tastings being relatively rare to now a ton of them, and there are, way more virtual tastings every day than individual could watch. What are you doing to sort of get the word out on those? Meaghan, let's start with you on this one.
Sure. Yeah. So we're not doing any virtual tastings, just, held by us. But for the partners that we work with, a lot of them are held on Instagram Live or Facebook Live. And there's just so many people online all the time, just like looking at their phones every day, that I think that, getting the word out through social media has been great. But you find a lot of people like just log in because they see you're live or that you're sharing a live stream. So it's really interesting. I think probably a lot of it is timing, picking a time where a lot of people happen to be online. Some people, of course, are going to plan their day around it and put in their calendar and be so excited. And then some people just drop in because they happen to be scrolling through social media. So I think both are great. And I guess the Zoom would be a different instance where you'd have to be invited. And we actually did do a really fun Zoom with that was actually through us. We partnered with a retailer. One of my best friends from graduate school manages her family winery in Alto Adige in Italy. And we're both carried through this wine store in Ithaca. So we partnered with them, and we both did a presentation about our wines, and it was side by side, Pinot Gris and her Pinot Grigio, and then our Gewürztraminer and her Gewürztraminer. And it was super fun and something totally different, that people could support both of us and hear about our friendship. And it's kind of something unique. Taste an Italian Gewürztraminer, taste a Finger Lakes Gewürztraminer, and then have the stories that go along with that. So I think that creative, energy will continue. So it's fun.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Craig, how are you promoting the things that you're doing online to get eyeballs?
Well, in the beginning, I think we did too many. I think that was a fault, sort of a overreaction. And now we've really pared it back and tried to make any event we're doing more significant. And whenever possible, trying to work with other wineries in that regard. Just like we're doing this afternoon with the Rhone Rangers. I found that the best way, that way you're kind of combining your marketing muscle, your mailing lists, and it's just more interesting, I think, when you have multiple wineries involved, kind of like what we're doing right now, through all parts of the country. So we've been moving more and more in that direction, and moving more of our individual events towards food-focused type things. So, and we're doing the typical promotion, all the social media, Facebook advertising, that sort of thing. But if you don't pay, you don't play. So,
wonderful. Thank you. Leah, how about for yourself? What are you doing to promote virtual?
So for us, the big ways that we promote each week are we send an email to our full list, and we really have identified a very consistent schedule as far as promoting and the actual event itself. And that in and of itself is a nice promotion tool for us. That consistency of promoting the pack each week brings a lot of those same people back that want to join every week. Of course, we use social. And then, like I said, we really have leaned on that influencer blogger community quite a bit, and also press. We've gotten some good press coverage about our virtual events. Those are the ways that we promote them. I'm seeing a few people asking about platforms. And I think really the answer there is it's not a one size fits all. Facebook Live is what we use for kind of our mass gatherings on Saturdays, but we use Zoom for the more intimate hangouts like this, where you can talk to each other, you can see the other faces. It's more private and closed circuit. But Facebook Live has been great for us as far as getting new people to kind of drop in. Facebook actually really wants their live video tool to succeed, and they're doing a lot to promote that in their algorithms and in the way that they serve those videos. So that's been a great tool for us to get new eyes on the brand, and we have a lot of people join, like I said, that don't have the pack, but maybe they'll buy the next week's pack and join us for a future tasting. So I would recommend Facebook Live. We also use YouTube Live. We kind of dual cast and do them at the same time, and those have worked really well for us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Also, really quickly, Facebook has a lot of great tools too, where they can send alerts to the people who have RSVP'd to your event so that they don't forget to tune in. So they'll say like William Chris Vineyards is going live, and you just kind of tap that alert on your phone and it brings up the live video. So those kind of things being built in is helpful as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Joy, how about you? Which platforms are you doing things on, and how do you promote?
Well, first I want to say that the proliferation of tastings is not any different than the number of tastings rooms that are open or were open. So we're used to being competitive. So I don't see that as a problem. The platforms we're using are Facebook Live, as I said, every Friday, 3 o'clock. And then Zoom we use for special get-togethers with different groups. So I'm excited. We're about to do one with Cal State Poly for their annual big event. We're going to do it via Zoom, tasting Iron Horse wines.
Wonderful. Thank you. Continuing to address questions from the audience. This one, to be quick and because it doesn't need a lot of expounding, I literally just like a show of hands from the four of you. If you are providing samples in small bottles rather than just large ones. So if you're doing half bottles or 2-ounce bottle samples for tastings, just raise your hand. Okay. So Meaghan, but nobody else. Thank you for that. Joy, you asked specifically for help from writers in getting the word out on bubbles and also your canned products, which is awesome. So one of the writers has asked for more specific requests. So Craig, if there's one thing that you would love writers to do for you in the next month, what is that one thing?
Well, I think the most compelling thing is covering the story of our transition to biodynamics. You know, taking this conventionally damaged property and really restoring it. And to me, that's the most interesting story that we're doing, is this regeneration of a historic property back into a meaningful winery.
Great, thank you for that, Craig. And just a little editorial on that myself. Craig says historic. It's literally one of the most historic vineyards in the entire state of Oregon. And the work that he and his team have been doing there over the past, say, 5-6 years, moving toward this sustainability and biodynamics has been a Herculean task, but one that is clearly creating dividends and is wonderful both for the place and the region as a whole, and for consumers as well. Meaghan, how about you? What's your one specific request for writers?
Only one? Just kidding. I guess that's a good question. I guess, we have a long history here. We're almost 60 years in business. And, the story with my great-grandfather immigrating here, not speaking any English, being the first to successfully plant vinifera on the eastern United States, that story we want to continue to tell because it makes us kind of distinctive. But there are 2 varieties that we grow that are really unique, and we've had them on the property since the 50s, and they don't get enough love. They're both Georgian grapes, Arcatzelli and Separavi. And we've been doing a lot of work with particularly Georgian producers, to really hone in our skills. We produce a few different styles of our Cazzotelli, an orange wine, also a stainless steel fermented dry white, and then Separavi is a red that's really inky and deep. It's one of the few red grapes with colored juice. So super interesting for the Finger Lakes, and Separavi is growing actually and planting. So some of these like lesser known varieties that are really interesting for our heritage, you know, with my great grandfather being Ukrainian, are just interesting to cover, and they make wonderful wines, and there's something different. So yeah, we're really proud of that as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Leah, same question to you. What's the one thing writers can do for you in the next 30 days?
I love that you're giving us a chance for a shameless plug. For me, you know, Texas wine, just continuing to get exposure. There are so few people there's a lot of people that are supporters, but there's a lot of people that still don't know about the quality of wine that's being produced down here. So just more exposure and more education on some of the varieties that we're growing down here. Mourvedre is a big one. We're the second largest producer of Mourvedre in the country here at William Chris Vineyards, and we're the largest producer, like I said at the top of this, of 100% Texas wines. So bringing more visibility to Texas as a wine region would be awesome. I will also just take a minute to shout out our co-founder, Chris Brendrett, who was named as one of Wine Enthusiast's 40 under 40 yesterday. That's a huge accomplishment, not only for Chris and for William Chris Vineyards, but also for Texas wine as a whole. So proof, you know, that great things are happening down here in Texas, and we're innovating in the world of wine and have some really great things to offer wine lovers across the world.
Cool, thank you. So we're getting close to out of time. I think it's maybe good to go through and get a final message from each of you. Before I do that, I'll just do that for myself again. As I mentioned, I'm doing a lot of Zoom tastings myself, and I also do the Wine Writers educational tours. The Zoom tastings I'm doing, some are for private corporate clients, some are just private groups of friends, but some of them are also for wine writers. And if the writers out there in the audience are interested in participating in any of those, it's free. It's not something I charge you for. Please just send me an email at fswan@me.com with your contact information and what you're interested in, and I'll add you to the list. And also, if you're interested in attending a educational conference in the future, also drop me a line on that, or go to wet.wine, and register there, and I can put you on the invitation list for the conferences that I do, which sadly are not free. I think writers that have attended will tell you they're well worth it. Craig, 30 seconds, final message from you.
Just thanks everyone for joining us today. A lot of you would have been at Troon Vineyard if the event hadn't gone virtual. We had the event scheduled here, but maybe next year we're still on for that. So I hope to see you all at Troon in the Applegate Valley next year. Wonderful,
thank you. Meaghan?
Yes, just to echo Craig's response, thank you all so much. And please come visit us in the Finger Lakes. We're open for the progressive tasting. I'd love your feedback. I'd love to see you. And thank you, everyone. Stay healthy and well.
Thank you so much. Joy.
I want to wish all of my colleagues a wonderful vintage 2020. And to all of us, we will never forget this year. And I look forward to toasting with the wines of 2020 with you all.
Wonderful, thank you. And Leah.
I echo you on that, Joy. I can't wait to toast everyone here in person as soon as we're able to. I would just end with another plug for Texas wine. Be sure to check us out at williamchriswines.com. If you're ever in the Central Texas area, we would love for you to come by for a visit. You know, wine writers and wine makers and wine marketers out there, just embrace the change, because this is a time for us to make some permanent evolutions as an industry that I think can be better for all of us. So cheers to you guys. I really enjoyed spending the morning with you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the viewers out there for coming to join us and hear the stories, for your interest in helping wineries. As wine writers, there are a few different approaches and a lot of to the business overall. A lot of wine writers try to distance themselves from the industry, don't see them as part of the industry, but outside observers, while others get super involved. But, you know, obviously, if you are a wine writer, even if you feel like you have to remain separate and dispassionate as a journalist, your work depends entirely on there being a wine industry. And so this is certainly a time to get out there and help and draw attention to wine and wineries in general. Tell the good stories, keep people engaged, and work on creating a more attuned, more educated world of wine consumers as well. That just benefits everyone. With that, I always pride myself on trying to keep things on time. I think we've done that super well. I'd love to thank my guests, Craig Camp of Troon Vineyards, Meaghan Frank from Dr. Constantine Frank and the Finger Lakes, Joy Sterling from Iron Horse, and Leah Derton from William Chris Vineyards out in Texas. Thank you so much. Sarah?
Yes, thank you all. We had a comment say, excellent panel, superb moderator, and I definitely agree. So thank you all for spending this hour with us. I wish we can go on longer. You could see some of the contact information is in the chat, so make sure to grab that up because after I exit out, you won't be able to see the chat. But thank you all. Excellent questions. This was a great session. If you did join us late and want to replay the session, you can purchase the All Access Pass. For media, it's $25, and I just linked it in the chat. So you should be able to click on that now. We do have 3 more sessions today, so please make sure to join us. The full agenda is linked there right now. Thank you all again for joining us. Thank you, panelists. A lot to think about, a lot to write about, and I hope to see you all later at our next session. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.